Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sisters Show. It's your favorite sisters, Jackie and Athena, and it is the day before Valentine's Day. It is the month of love, of self-love, of romantic love, of friend love, of baby love, all the love.
All love.
So we're going to be doing 2 episodes on kind of just
Love.
You
love love.
I love love. I'm such a lover girl.
She's
a
lover.
Am.
Yeah.
I really am a lover girl. So we wanted to talk about something that we have I feel like we've had this conversation a lot of times recently about being selfish and pouring into your own cup and why that's so important. And I think when you grow up constantly being told being selfish is always a negative thing, as an adult, you kind of
have to work through that.
Like, wait,
yeah,
is it always a negative thing? And
yeah,
we're constantly being told so many different things. And one thing I've realized recently and have tried to apply in my own life is that in order to be the best person I can be in every relationship I have in my career, just as an overall woman, I need to show myself love and I need to be selfish sometimes with my decisions. And I think it's something that you can apply in your life at any age, at any time. And so we really just wanted to go over what and why being selfish is important and how we kind of apply that idea into our own lives. So yeah,
I want to speak a little bit about that. So I think basically what you're hinting at is a lot of, especially within Christian circles, selfishness is very taboo and looked upon as sin.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, would you say that?
Yeah.
I think that we were both obviously raised differently, but in the same situation as far as being selfish means you're sinning. And so we want to kind of just reframe that. Obviously, we're not over here to be like your pastors.
Yeah, just break that mold a little bit.
We just want to talk to you about how vital it is and loving yourself is having to be selfish. We need to reframe selfish.
Yeah,
we need to get the conversation started. Why does society make women feel guilty about being selfish? Because you know what, fam? They don't do that to men.
No.
Did you notice that?
I do. I think it's so often.
And I'm not a man hater. But what the fuck is that?
Especially if you are young and trying to be successful or trying to do something with your life. For a man, it's like, oh, he's confident, he knows what he wants, he goes after it. And then for a woman, it's always, oh, like, what about all these other things? And you're being cocky, or you're being arrogant, or you're just loud. Or
what about women, moms, when they are selfish, but yet the dads, not my husband, but a lot of dads out there, I'd say 80% of the men that are the fathers don't do anything when they get home from work.
Yeah.
And if a mom did that,
yeah,
you're selfish. It's frowned upon. But when the dad takes 5 hours to take a shit or comes home and then goes to the gym and then like misses bedtime, that's acceptable. So what's that about?
Yeah. Well,
how can we reframe that for women?
Depending on what phase of life you're in, obviously you can give and take a little more. You can be a little more selfish, or like we were talking about even before we started, like when you're in the period of life where you are, whatever it may be, in your career, you might have to give a little more in certain times, but with having a family and all those things,
there's seasons.
For
sure.
And you have to be okay with that. But I think overall, like, don't demonize people in general just because, oh, that person is choosing to do something for themselves.
Being selfish, even if it's just with 1% of your day.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Joey, what's 1% of 24?
40. Wait. 40.
Come on, Trinity guys over here. You guys are like really smart. I'm not.
Are we?
Yeah.
Why aren't you smart?
Because I don't have your amazing education.
I don't think it was that good of an education.
I'm kidding. I should love myself. I'm very smart, but I hate math.
I love math.
Okay, so do that then.
What was it? 10% of.
So if we're selfish with 1% of our day,
20 minutes.
20 minutes. That's fine.
Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that math equation.
No, but I am a better human.
Yeah.
When even if it's just 5 minutes out of my day that I am selfish with it. And I find that when I'm too much in that selflessness, which we've all been there. And I think that to be a good human, you need to also not be selfish in certain times of your life, obviously. But when I'm too much in that serving everyone, I'm not a happy person.
Yeah.
I'm a bitch. I get resentful. I start to question everything. Like, for instance, my boys have been sick since last week. Nothing serious, but we are rarely sick, so they're super high maintenance. And I think that Jackie of 10 years ago would have been like, you can't go to Miami to record an episode for your podcast. You have 2 sick cubs. Whereas Jackie of this decade is like, no, I'm going to be selfish, which I'm actually working while I'm here, but daddy's got it and I need this. And so where other people might look at that as me not being a good mom or she's being selfish, like, my time with you refuels me. When I walk back into my house, I'm a happier, more present, great mom and wife.
I think the visual I've always thought of, which is kind of a cliche one, but honestly, it's one that's helped me mentally. If you're a visual person, imagine it is literally a cup, and this cup is a cup that you're constantly pouring into your job, your partner, your children, your friendships, your whatever it may be in your life that you have to give yourself to, give your energy, your time, your focus to. And that cup is eventually going to be emptied across all of those different categories. And if you're not filling that cup every day, every week with Athena time, with Jackie time of, I'm going to carve out this little space in my routine so I can be a better this, and this, then all of that energy you're putting towards all those other things is going to diminish and be empty, and you're not going to have anything left over to give to other people, especially if you work in a job or a field where you're dealing with people all day. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, you have clients, or that type of field where you're not just at home, you know, sitting and editing. No, I'm kidding. I'm calling them out. But if you have like more of a job where you're craving social time, when we're working with people and energies and personalities, I can't give to clients. I can't sit there and therapy you or give you my advice or help you if I am not pouring back into myself at some point during my routine. And that's why it's so important. So that's kind of the visual I've always tried to remind myself of when it comes to this. Like, pouring into your cup only allows you to be a better person for everyone else in your life. Yeah, and absolutely. When you have relationships around you that respect that and realize that, for example, Sean knows when Jackie goes here and hangs out with her sister, she's going to come back and be a happier woman.
It's true.
Like, that's literally what it is.
He actually will say, can you go to Miami?
Yeah.
And not because he's obsessed with me. He is obsessed with me, but he like sees that I'm about to lose it.
Yeah. And he knows you're going to come back home and be a better Jackie, a happier Jackie. You aren't, you know, you get 24 hours to not be overstimulated, and you'll come home and feel peace and calm. Like, it's important to have people in your life that respect that boundary as well. Yeah. Because I think there might be people that maybe friends or things that can be so clingy and overbearing that it's like you feel guilty being selfish. And I think those it's important to stay away from
those
people.
Are not the friends for me. Yeah, for sure. That's so true. So for me, especially with selfishness, it's like I see how fast time is going. And I think this has been, like you said, a common theme in a lot of our episodes. And so whether it's selfish with my energy or selfish with my physical well-being or selfish with my attention, whatever it is, like, it's so important for me to, and I think I've also even quoted the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have I talked about that on the podcast?
I think a couple times, yeah.
But we only have so many F's to give in this life. And I feel like we're giving them away to things on a daily basis that really we shouldn't be giving them to. I blinked and my son is 14. I'm going to blink again and he's going to be 18. I am selfish with also not just myself, but who I allow to have contact with my children, what we're doing with our time and our days. And, you know, honestly, some of my homeschool, which you're going to find this funny, I homeschool because I'm a little selfish. And you're like, what? What do you mean? I always tell people I could never have the businesses that I have and work them and do what I do if my kids were in conventional school. Because of the drop off, the pickup, the schedules, the this, the that, the other thing. So even though some people look at my homeschooling my children as like some kind of badge of honor that I'm like selfless, actually, folks, I do it like it's
to have control.
No, literally over
schedule,
our like, and going back to like that our two biggest assets, energy and time, and then also our health. But you know, that's just my little tidbits on that. But I feel like we have to be selfish in order to be good humans.
Yeah.
That's not anyone who knows
in order to be the best human, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that I think there's a place and a time too for selflessness and for cultivating relationships and things like that. But I think that when you have one without the other, that's when you get to the point where you're 60 and you look back and you're like, why have I done nothing in my life for myself? Why was I, which ties into what I want to say as a girl in her 20s and two other people around my age are in their 20s as well, that we have a really, I mean, some people are naturally born without that people pleasing gene, but I think as humans in general, most of us tend to want to make people happy. And we whether we want to admit it or not, like in your deepest, darkest secret, we all like approval. We all like approval. We all want to be liked. We all want to be respected by everyone. And so when you're making these like life-changing decisions or transitioning from high school to what you're going to do after, or college or career, or where you're going to live, or what kind of lifestyle you're going to live in your 20s, I think we are it's like ingrained in our minds. What exactly do your parents want you to do? What about your childhood friends, your, people that have been there for you forever? And we feel so guilty to leave or to make a different decision or to try something different than what we have always been told is like the path you're supposed to go on or what you're supposed to do. And if you don't do it this way, then, you're choosing a risky way of living. So I think that teaching and training yourself that at the end of the day, which you've said this before, like when you close your doors at night, like whoever is in your house, whether it's just you, whether it's you and a partner, whoever it is, that's what matters. That's what matters. And we've been so, I don't want to say brainwashed. It's like a little bit dramatic, but we've been dramatic. We've been brainwashed. We've been so trained to just immediately think, well, oh my gosh, what is this person going to feel about me making this decision? Or I want to, whatever it may be, I want to go backpack around Europe for 5 years and see different cultures and different lifestyles. Like, what is that going to do to my childhood best friend that needs me at their side 24/7? Like, and then you look back 30 years later, and I always see, I don't know what TikTok it is or whatever, but there's this guy that goes around and he'll go up to like older people and he'll be like, what's one thing you regret in life? And literally, I kid you not, one of the top things they say is like spending so many years worrying about what everyone else would think of what they were doing and just regretting not taking chances or taking risks. And I know you'll touch on this as far as being someone with a family, but the truth is, like, when you don't have those responsibilities, when you don't have a mortgage, when you don't have kids, when you don't have those things, like, you are doing risks with the least amount of repercussions from it. And I think that if you're at a place where you can do that, do it.
Yeah,
do
I
it
agree.
So you don't look back when you're 60 and you're like, what was I thinking? And the reality is too, once you get to 60, like, I look at our dad, like, there's certain things he just can't do because he has a lot of responsibilities. So I think,
when I'm 60, I'm probably going to do crazy things that people are going to
can do crazy things, but I'm saying the risks of doing it is a lot more mentally taxing on you. Yeah, and there's a lot more hoops that you have to jump through and things that you have to make sure are set in place. I don't want to live with regret, and I don't want to live with, I wish I did this.
I think that's my biggest fear would be to
living with regret.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. That's like my greatest fear. I don't know have you seen those videos I'm talking about where they'll do like interviews? I have to send them to you.
So low key though, I was the original TikToker because when I worked for hospice many years ago, I was literally on people's deathbeds with them.
And you asked them?
I would ask them.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So I would ask people, obviously, if they were like not talking, I wouldn't like have a conversation, but like I had very close relationships with a lot of my patients. And the common thing that everyone came back, like I didn't say, what do you regret? I didn't ask that. I said, what was the favorite part of your life?
Yeah.
And every single person, male or female, they were obviously older. We did have young patients, but these were the older people I asked this to. Always dialed in. It was when they had their family, and that like stuck with me. Like those years are short when you're starting your family and raising your family, but like it was their best years. And so, and some of them were divorced and it didn't work out with their significant other, but like that time, and that always really carried with me. Maybe that's why I had kids so young. No, I'm kidding. But like that, I was always like, wow, that's so interesting. Because I don't think a lot of people, I don't know if everyone would say that has families. Like that was their favorite part, you know? So going to pictures, mine is, you know, when the flight attendant says, don't, which I never watch them when they do this, but they're like, put your life vest on first.
Yeah.
Put the oxygen on your face first.
No,
That's my picture. Yours is the cup. Mine's like, how in the actual FUCK am I supposed to show up for my marriage, break generational cycles, help my clients, grow businesses, raise 4 men, homeschool them, be a good sister, be a good sister-in-law, be a good friend if I'm drowning? And so I'm talking to you whether you're 20 years old or you're 60 years old. It is not selfish of you to, like, for me, self-care is a non-negotiable. Like, and I'm not saying that I go to the spa every day, but like sometimes my self-care is staying in the shower for an extra 40 minutes, or, you know, red light therapy and locking the door and telling my kids not to come in. Or sometimes it's just a freaking walk with a podcast that lifts me up. Or today it's on your couch. I left my 2 sick kids. So, when you're going through your days, and when I don't know if you're listening to this, or maybe you can relate to this. Obviously, I think you probably could. When I find myself snapping on my children or my husband, or I don't snap on my clients, but I want to, it's usually when I'm neglecting myself.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Even
it's like we don't have our oxygen mask on.
Even last week when I was like sick and unwell on the couch, I obviously wasn't really able to work out a ton. And honestly, yesterday was my first like workout that I did since in like a whole week, like 7 or 8 days. And I was getting to the point where I felt
cranky?
I felt like a kettle, like about to like explode. It was like all this pent up, like I feel like a man low key. Like I had like rage to let out. Like I need to like, what's the word?
Like Hulk? Like
yeah, but what's the word when like guys go work out and they like get their testosterone like released? I don't know what that's called, but like,
where's Sean when you need him?
I know, but I needed to like release. I felt so pent up, and I wasn't working obviously, but if I was, I feel like I would have been so on edge.
That's what I'm saying.
So I definitely get that. As you were saying that, I was trying to think of like people in my life, just close, not close, whatever. Yeah. And I don't think we realize, I think because we're in the wellness space a lot, we assume everyone just like automatically loves self-care and like routine. But there's definitely so many people that I don't think it doesn't come naturally to them to incorporate these things in their life. I don't know why, but I guess because we're all built differently and people just prioritize different things. But I didn't realize that a lot of people actually don't automatically incorporate even just like a 5 or 10 minute little routine or a thing.
Well, now I'm going to talk to the moms. It's like, you know, a lot of women use having children as like the excuse as to why they don't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the whole reason why you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I can correlate. I can think of people in our life, close, far, relatives, whatever, that you see that it always catches up to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we need to really get the conversation like started around selfish is not a bad thing. Obviously, if my sister was 9 months pregnant and she needed me, I would be selfless. But we're not giving like those kind of examples. I think like we said within the Christian community, it gets a bad rap because you automatically think like, oh, they're selfish. That's bad. She's not thinking of anyone but herself. No, I'm thinking of everyone else but myself. So I have to pour into my
Yeah.
cup. Also, it's not just Christian circles. It's also Greek.
Yeah.
It's a Greek thing. And I can speak because I'm Greek, but like it's like that old school European, the women should be barefoot and pregnant. The men are allowed to like, even like in our yaya with raising our dad and our aunt, like it was such a double standard.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that's ingrained in, is that selfishness that like, our father was allowed to do things that our aunt wasn't allowed to do. And it was literally based off of their sex.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I have 4 sons, so I can't really speak as someone that has a daughter and sons and whatever else. But like, I also think it's a good example to set, especially for daughters, especially like when I talk to my clients about, putting themselves first and like, get your steps in before they wake up, or, let your daughter see that you're like, that's a great example. I love it for my sons to see, their father. Like the other day, Yanni and I were talking, and like, I was like, so like asking him funny questions to see what he would say back. And I was like, so are you going to like work out when you're older? And he's like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
And I know that's because of Sean.
Yeah.
And it's the example. So do you want your daughter to be a burnt out, miserable, angry, resentful woman one day? Because, and I'm not saying that if she's a housewife, she will be. I'm not saying that. I'm just, whatever her field is, set the tone now for your house that no, mommy is like, there's times where I literally look at the boys and I don't care what's going on. And I'm like, do not follow me. Like, I need this right now. And they look at me and they're like, okay, love you, hug me. I go for a walk. Maybe I'm yelling, maybe I'm crying to I don't know. And then I come back and I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's selfish, right? Like, no. Also, like, selfish in the bedroom.
Yeah.
I mean, let's always go there. Like, I'm not saying like all the time, but like, there's times I can look back in my marriage. We'll be married 15 years in a couple months. That's a long ass time. We're almost to 20. I'm not old enough for this shit. And we've been together for 20 years. Okay. So Sean's known me longer, like more than half my life. Okay. So there's been times and seasons when he was building whatever he was building that he was selfish, and you ebb and flow with that. You have to be
This is a great segue into our next episode, which is about relationships.
Yeah, you have to be able to allow your spouse to be selfish.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be selfish. Maybe you have a son that's in a travel sports team and you let him be selfish with that for a season. Like, this goes for everything.
I think too, kind of touching on what I said earlier about being in your 20s, that's why choosing a partner is one of the most important decision you will ever make in your life. Period of time, I was selfless in moving here, even though like I love my life, but I had to give up something that I thought for myself for a period of time, knowing that it was all going to work out better, and vice versa. Run, There's certain periods of time where your partner might be selfless so that you can be selfish, and that's okay. And that's the beauty of choosing a partner that you are meant to be with, and that is the right person for your life, not someone that's going to make you. I mean, imagine if we had partners that made us feel guilty for wanting to do something for ourselves, because there's also women that are in relationships like that, and be selfish in that and break up with his ass, because you deserve to live the life that you can create for yourself. And if the person you're with isn't going to support that, if you have a friend that's not going to support that, they need to go. And that's what's really hard, I think, about being younger versus being in my 30s or 40s, is like, I think it's really harder for us to like break up with people in a way, because it's hard for us to think to be selfish like that. Like, I feel like you can just be like, bye, like, I don't have the energy, like the I don't give a fuck that comes with getting older.
Channeling Beth.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm just trying to be Beth from Yellowstone. She's like, that's who I want to be in my 40s. Like, you're going to see that come out in my 40s.
Oh, I can't wait.
Maybe I'll have a Yellowstone birthday.
Like a cowgirl theme vibe? Yeah. You dress up as Beth and we all dress up as cowgirls. Yeah. That would be iconic. But
no, so I have another.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I think it can be hard to choose yourself when it comes to other people. Yeah. Even, especially people that have done things for you, because you feel this like guiltiness. So to all my like young girls out there, it's okay to choose yourself. And you know what? We're human, and we make mistakes, and maybe in 10 years you're like, oops, messed that one up. But that's the beauty of life. And
newsflash, I'm 37 and I make mistakes every day. I know you get to see front row seats of that. And none of us.
I'm seat 1A.
Yeah, right in the front. But also, you and I are so different. When I was your age, I was engaged and I literally had a baby a year later. Okay. That doesn't mean that she's selfish, because she's not choosing to do that in her 20s. And that doesn't make her any less of a woman or any less of a mom or any less of a Greek. And then for me,
Not the Greek guilt.
no. And then for me though, like now in my pushing 40s, I'm selfish. Whereas in my 20s, it wasn't my selfish decade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that looks different for all of us in different seasons. And there's going to be times like I'm sure we'll have when I'm actually a grandma, me being selfish with like, no, I'm not watching your kid. I'm going on vacation. You know,
like how do you set that boundary with your child?
Right. And selfishness comes in all forms of boundaries too. And so it's another thing that
dropping the people pleasing and setting boundaries.
Yeah. And I think we all need to hear this all the time. We all struggle with this. And this is a topic that I think, especially for women, we need to normalize this, because again, why are men allowed to be so fucking selfish? And then for women,
maybe it's because like we're naturally, most women are more nurturing. So we do emotionally tend to care more. And I think that we're constantly thinking of everyone's feelings, sometimes at the cost of our own.
Right. Yeah.
And putting ourselves in a bad situation just to make someone else happy. And I think that's probably why a lot of women feel that way. And you don't realize until maybe you've done it enough times to be like, oh, wait, I've done that a lot of times. At what cost now? Because I'm at this point and I've put everyone else's opinions and feelings above mine, and I'm still unhappy, or I'm still not satisfied or fulfilled in what I'm doing. So one thing I wanted to ask you to kind of close this out is, as my big sister,
I'm scared. What's she gonna ask?
If you could look back on the past like 15, 20 years of your life, and through everything that you've done, every decision you made, like what was one thing that you feel like when it comes to being selfish, you would have done differently looking back?
Yeah, that's a really loaded question. So I think
thought-provoking.
Yeah, the number one thing I think that what I would have done differently with self in regards to that, I cared way too much what everyone thought about every single thing that I did.
Yeah.
And I was afraid to make decisions, especially in my 20s, with having a family and being a young family and having a bunch of kids in my 20s. I was constantly worried about what everyone else thought of everything that we did, whether it was in-laws, immediate family, friends. What is Molly at church going to say? Da, 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 da. I think one of the biggest things would be that. Like I was afraid to be selfish in my 20s. And you have ignited that in me, watching you. Like I don't like sit in my 30s and I'm like, man, I wish I was more selfish in my 20s, but I see how you're so unhinged and free. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, I wish I never would regret anything or change anything about my boys getting married young or any of that. Best thing I ever did. But watching you.
Yeah.
And even when I come to you for advice, because you know I have no shame.
Yeah.
And you're always like, so what? Who cares? And I'm like,
do you think that it was something put on from like where does that even come from? Like, why are we so innately prone to just care so much? And we're all individuals and we all care so much about everyone else. So like we're all overthinking all of our own decisions based on what other people, right? Like based on what other people are going to say while they're thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So I wish I was more selfish in my 20s. I wish that I cared less about what people thought about every, action and step that I made, and that I was more empowered in my 20s. And you are. And so I'm so thankful for that. Obviously, of course, you struggle with different things and all that, but I think
I think it took
I don't like to say regret. Like,
no, I don't think it's a regret. I think it's a reflection.
Yeah.
I think it's a reflection. Like everything happens how it's supposed to.
Of
so
course.
it's not like you're looking back like, oh my gosh, I would have,
like I would have
changed-
dropped that friend a lot sooner, or I would have,
Well, I feel like only recently, I really heard you start being so adamant about like only what's in our house is, or only who's in our house is what matters. Like I feel like you knew it, but like applying it to life, I feel like only recently it really like it really only like came to fruition.
That'll do it when you sell every fucking thing that you own and move to the Florida Keys, because guess what? Do you know how many people in our life, especially family, thought that was selfish?
Yeah.
Sean walking away from the only family business and career he's ever known since I've met him. Me walking away from a custom, beautiful home and cul-de-sac and this beautiful life that is the American dream. And how could you do that? That's so selfish to your boys. I was asked that question by a family member. You're moving and downsizing to a villa. You're selfish for doing that. Your kids need all this space. And I'm like, but do they? If you've seen that change in me, is I lived it out loud.
Yeah.
So when you take the lesson and then actually live by it, because I think a lot of influencers, a lot of parents, a lot of boomers, a lot of 20-year-olds, we say things and we act like this is our mantra, like I only care about what goes on in my house, but we don't live it. And your kids find you out and they realize, actually, no, mom does care what Molly at church thinks about how I behaved, when ultimately you really should be caring about, one, the man upstairs, and two, my husband and my kids here. So I think that that's just my growth in that area. And when you were talking, I want to also close with another picture. But when you were
us in our pictures,
I don't know. I saw this on TikTok a while ago. I think I used the audio, but not everyone is meant to come with you in every next level up in your life. And it was the coolest analogy. The rocket ship. I know Mel Robbins is talking about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, like the rocket thing now.
Yeah.
But think of a rocket when it's about to take off and it has those two heavy ass gas things on it. I'm using all the wrong terms because I'm just a girl, but it takes off, right? So think of that as you in your 20s, in your career, whether it's your career, making a life in Miami, whether it's me when I was fat and pregnant for most of my 20s, whatever it is, you think about the jetpack, right? And you're going, I was pregnant. It's fine. It wasn't fat. It was humans. But picture this now. You're going up, right? And
they stay behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whether I
think I'm going to tear up and
no,
cry.
let's think about the jetpack. Maybe I'm using Joey as a bad example, but he's sitting here. Joey has a friend that's a loser. By the way, he doesn't have a friend that's a loser. I'm just using it as an example. Should I use the plant? I don't know what example to use. But like, think about it. You're in your early 20s. You're starting your career. You're in Miami. You're doing your thing. And you feel this, I think so often, we feel a pull. Like God is speaking to us. But you keep that loser friend around way longer than you should because you feel bad. Because you don't want to be selfish. Whatever it is. Listen, when I moved to the Florida Keys, a lot of fucking dead weight got dropped as I went up into the fucking next plane and the next level of my career and the next level of my marriage and raising teenagers. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Drop the weight, like the thing. Because if the reason, mind you, I'm going to have like a fucking rocket scientist be like, that's not true. But they couldn't handle, well, there's no gravity. Why do they drop them?
think it's too much weight.
It's too much weight.
I think so, yeah.
Don't quote us. We're just girls. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we are meant, not everyone is supposed to come to every level.
Yeah.
And you got to drop that dead weight. You got to drop the whatever they're called. What are they? Jetpacks? I don't even know.
Idea.
But be selfish.
I think on a practical level too, if you the type of person I think of when you say that too, especially, is people that, because it's one thing to like play devil's advocate here and there, but I'm sure you've had this type of person where every like little thing you say or do, they try to like constantly pick it apart or like criticize it or constantly be negative about it. And I think that is the type of person that I want far, far away. I don't know. I've definitely had some people in my life before that will make these type of like backhanded comments almost where you're like, was that like low-key insulting? And that is the type of person to look out for, because as you become more successful or you just start living a life that you love and that you feel fulfilled in, that person is literally the definition of dead weight.
Yeah.
Because all they want to do is bash and
things that you need to drop for
and
sure.
like that's okay. And again, all of this we've said this before to each other, like against popular belief, like I wouldn't consider us super confrontational people. Like it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have with a friend or a parent or whoever. Like, oh, you know, or even what?
Like it could be a job that's weighing you down.
Right, whatever it is.
Job.
Like, these are uncomfortable conversations to have. But I think that's where growth happens, and that's where you become a person that you fall in love with too. And like I said this before we started filming, like we could have done an episode about like make a bubble bath for yourself and like go on a walk, which those are amazing things that you should do. But I think on an even deeper level, being selfish and pouring into your own cup, whatever that looks like, and prioritizing saying no, prioritizing setting boundaries with people, prioritizing making decisions that benefit, whether it's just you and your husband, you and your husband and your kids, and that's it.
Right.
That's ultimately what will set you up for true fulfillment in life, I think, because at the end of the day, that's whose opinion matters. And
ultimately too, I think the people that are doing those backhanded, you know, comments and do that to all of us, whether it's on social media or it's in real life that they say it to you, that's not on you. That's them. So we don't need to be trying to control or fix. No is a complete sentence, and sometimes no is your self-care of that day, you know, saying no to something that doesn't serve you anymore. So I think, you know, selfish is a great word, like selfish.
I think that should be one of our merches.
Like, and then on the back,
in my like, selfish era,
in my fucking,
I like that.
I am in my selfish era for sure.
I like that. Well, we love you guys so much. By the time this goes up, Valentine's will be over.
We hope you have the best Valentine's Day. We hope you had a
great Valentine's, whether you were alone or with someone else or whatever you were doing. It's okay to be selfish sometimes, and it's okay to want to make decisions that
are only good for you.
Correct.
No one else. Let's like change the stigma that is so around women and when we're selfish. So cheer on another selfish mom out there, or a selfish 20-year-old, and you know,
or a selfish 80-year-old.
Yeah,
you know
like
what?
y'all should be selfish.
I don't think
I know you're not listening, but if you were, I hope you're selfish today. I hope you don't cook
like
for anyone.
She is the least selfish person I've ever met.
Ya is a servant through and through. Like but she loves it.
I think some people thrive. You know what though? I think being selfless makes them feel good about themselves. So in
she's
a way,
actually being selfish. We will see you next week. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Also, send us a message if you guys want to hear more on another topic. We're here. Our DMs are always open. The Sisters Show on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok.
All the above.
I mean,
we love you guys
everywhere, you know?
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.